let's just look at the facts. Canada has the fewest houses per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. Why? We rank 64th in the OECD in the time it takes to get a building permit. Government red tape adds as much as $650,000 to each house in some cities. And the Prime Minister has made it worse by giving the gatekeepers who block the building more money. Why?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, this goes to the heart of the announcement we made last week on the Housing Accelerator Fund, which does work directly with municipalities to accelerate the delivery and the construction of affordable housing. Now, Mr. Speaker, what the member opposite would have you believe is that doing nothing to address the housing crisis would have somehow made it better. He criticizes us for the investments of billions of dollars in housing over the past years. Just think, if things are expensive now, how much worse it would have been had we had a Conservative government that continued to cross its arms and cut services to Canadians for the past 8 years.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You don't have to imagine what prices would have been were I making the decisions, because when I was the housing minister, the average mortgage payment and the average rent payment were half of what they are now. It's called history.
Next thing, the member opposite's going to complain that housing prices are higher today than they were in my father's time as Prime Minister.
You look at his promise to make it easier for Canadians to get a home, and since that time, the payments have actually doubled. You listen to him rattle off the billions he's spent to achieve that failure. He kind of reminds you of that shady contractor who promises you that he'll build you a brand new home, but the cost just keeps going up and up and up, and the house never actually gets built, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader is actually arguing that less investments in Canadians, less investments alongside municipalities and provinces, fewer programs to support Canadians would somehow have solved this problem. That's the problem with Conservatives. They think that cuts can create growth. They think that fewer investments in Canadians will get people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and succeed. Mr. Speaker, we believe in investing in the middle class and people working hard to join it, and that's why Canadians is doing better than they were before.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
In other words, we should forgive him for failing because he fails expensively. The Prime Minister has failed to make housing affordable even after 89 billion precious tax dollars have been spent on that failure. I've suggested to him we should link the number of dollars a big city gets to the number of houses they allow to be built to incentivize more building. He doesn't like that idea. Well, he doesn't like results, but here's another idea. We build transit stations with federal money. In the most successful transit and housing jurisdictions on earth, there are apartments next to those stations. Will the Prime Minister require every federally funded transit station have high-density apartments so that our seniors and young people can live right next to the bus or train?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Congratulate the Leader of the Opposition for actually talking about concrete ideas. For a long time, his only recommendation to help Canadians was invest in Bitcoin. That'll help you avoid inflation. But now he's talking about credible opportunities to help Canadians. What's nice, though, Mr. Speaker, is the idea of density around transit hubs is something that we're already moving forward on and have invested in over the past few years. We know how important is that. But I will remind the member opposite that in order to invest in density around transit hubs, one has to invest in public transit, which his government never did, which we have continued to do to record levels.
Of the Opposition.
The difference is, like housing, we actually got it built. He doesn't like that idea. Well, how about this one? He's got 37,000 many of them largely empty buildings, big, ugly buildings. Why doesn't he sell off 15% of them so we can convert those into affordable housing for our young people?
Part of a question period and answer period needs to be taking yes for an answer. And I said yes. Not only do we like the idea of density around public transit spaces, we've been doing it for years. We've been putting it in our agreements with municipalities as we invest historic amounts in public transit. Now, the government, the former Conservative government, refused to invest in any infrastructure larger than a doorknob or an economic action plan sign. We're continuing to invest in significant public transit, including with a permanent public transit fund, something that the Conservatives have again campaigned against.
Their very first infrastructure project was to install a doorknob in the Prime Minister's office when they took office, Mr. Speaker.